Hello, everyone. I am back. But after all, how could I not be back to talk about the biggest night in Hollywood? That's right, it's the Oscars, baby. I didn't see any of the movies that were nominated. I think I fell asleep during Power of the Dog. I kind of fell off with movies, honestly. This is probably not great for running a movies channel, right? We're not just here to talk about all the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood royalty. Instead, we're talking about the moment that saved the Oscars, that made the Oscars relevant again. Oscar himself descended from heaven and blessed us with a moment that I'm sure we will be talking about for an annoyingly long amount of time, as excellent as it was.
Uh-oh, Richard! Oh, wow!
And I have to say, this is the one year I didn't watch the Oscars live. The one year I didn't actually watch it on TV. I was sitting back, I was all smug. I was like, oh, yeah, what am I gonna miss? So is it see, I don't even know the nominees off the top of my head. I can't even riff. Regardless, Will Smith got on stage and he rocked Chris Rock's shit. See what I did there? He rocked Chris Rock's shit with an open-handed slap to the face for making, there's layers to this, for making an insensitive joke at Jada Pinkett Smith's expense, which is only insensitive if you apply the fact that she has alopecia because she was in G.I. Jane. Okay, I'm missing some of the context. I'm not gonna lie. There seems like this is messy, but the moment is what we're here to talk about. The moment and the reactions. Now, anyone who's been on the internet ever knows that there's always a fundamental cause and effect. We could call this the fourth law of thermodynamics, and that's the internet hot take law, right? And that is, with anything that happens, there are going to be some of the most terrible, awful hot takes of all time. In an event like this, there certainly were some really bad takes from celebrities. So I just figured I'd take you guys through some of them. So let's dive in. First up, we got Kathy Griffin. If you are not familiar with her work, that probably means that you are under the age of 25, like myself. But you may recall the fact that she did that whole headless Donald Trump thing. She held up a fake Donald Trump head. And it was all bloody and shit. It was back in 2016, 2017. And it was sort of embarrassing to begin with, even though Trump fucking sucked. But it was already a little cringe for her to do that. And then everybody's reactions were so much worse. And then her own reaction to people's reactions was the moral grandstanding stand-up comedian routine of, oh, if comedians aren't allowed to say whatever they want, society and democracy will crumble and blah, 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 blah. You've heard it a million fucking times in the past year, right? All the Joe Rogan discourse, it's the same shit. But she hopped onto Twitter. I feel like I'm on TMZ. She hopped onto Twitter to voice her opinions on the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock routine. It goes as such. Let me tell you something. It's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we will all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters. There was a long time when I imagine most people in comedy clubs and theaters wanted to be the next Will Smith. I mean, talk about a meteoric rise to success. But what she seems to be talking about here is be the next Will Smith, as in, presumably, Kathy Griffin will at some point in the future go on stage at the Laugh Factory and say something really insensitive about an audience member's wife. And she is, quite frankly, rightfully afraid that Will Smith will teleport into that audience, come up and smack her in the face. And I think that's a valid concern for a stand-up comedian to have. Stand-up comedians are our most valuable national resource. They are the most oppressed working class. as well, especially the most famous of them. They certainly just have the biggest Will Smith targets on their back. So I really, I have to understand her concern here. So let's jump over to the next hot take. This one was so bad that the author deleted it, but this comes from Judd Apatow, director, producer behind many, I'd say funny, generally, films such as The 40-Year-Old Virgin. He did Freaks and Geeks, which apparently there was some on-set conduct there that he didn't really step in and intervene on, but, that's outside of my wheelhouse. Like Trainwreck with Amy Schumer, which, actually not talking about the Oscars last night, we're talking about the movie Trainwreck with Amy Schumer, so maybe a little bit of a copyright dispute. Judd Apatow says, he could have killed him. That's pure out-of-control rage and violence. It was an open-hand slap to the face. Slap to the face. They've heard a million jokes about them in the last 3 decades. They are not freshmen in the world of Hollywood and comedy. He lost his mind. So yeah, there's a decent amount to unpack there. You're gonna start to see a theme here, right? With these tweets that we're going through, and they all sort of, funnel down into this general format here, which is this joke tweet. To those saying Will Smith hitting Chris Rock is funny, I ask you this: replace Will with the word airplane and Chris Rock with the Twin Towers. That's not so funny now, is it? Yeah, so jumping on to the next terrible take. Literally everyone defending Will is approving and encouraging toxic masculinity. That the answer to something someone says that you find offensive is violence. Here, it's a slap on stage. Outside of this event, it's a knife stab or a gunshot or, a stab through the chest with a Halo energy sword, or run over with a Halo Warthog, or shot with the Halo battle rifle. There are a lot of things that can happen when you make fun of, or when you slap a stand-up comedian. I'm sort of losing the plot here. I'm not really understanding what he's saying exactly is going to snowball. Is he saying the concept of violence, like violence begets violence? Because, I get that, but is he saying that Will Smith is setting a precedent that it's okay to stab people? Is that because he slapped Chris Rock? This is pretty nuts. I gotta think about this. I gotta read some theory on this, because this is getting pretty intense. And then this is probably my favorite Twitter hot take of the night, coming from Cher, our queen. So she tweeted out, "Oh, what a night! I'm so happy." Because, obviously it was a great night. It was a riot. It was an awesome time. And somebody responds, she must really hate Chris Rock. And Cher responds, "I hadn't seen the fight, dipshit. I went to go get a Dr. Pepper." Which is... to have her mind. So yeah, just going through some other general reactions. Here's one that I really like. The one angle that I'm sure a lot of you have seen of the incident, you can map the Fibonacci spiral onto it, and it looks a lot like a Renaissance painting. And there's a lot to be said about sacred geometry in celebrity fistfights. That's all I'm saying. I haven't been a Will Smith fan in a minute. Not for any particular reason. I probably just got blackpilled with the whole YouTube Rewind thing that he did.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
And then I just got bandwagoned the whole rest of the way. Whatever. But, I used to really like Will Smith and his work. I loved Hitch. If you've ever seen Hitch, loved Shark Tale, loved Wild Wild West, Men in Black. Yeah, I could just list his whole filmography, probably up until 2007. And I feel like right around the recession is when Will Smith movies started to get real Oscar baity. And to his credit, he has now won Best Actor, which is awesome. I think it's well deserved. He's had a great career. But as soon as his filmography started to get very Pursuit of Happiness-y, which I remember liking. I haven't seen in a decade and a half. But then there was 7 Pounds, and I feel like there was a bunch of other stuff after that, and I just couldn't really stay in touch. That being said, I do really like Concussion. I am going on record now saying that the much underloved Academy Award winning movie Concussion, or nominated. I don't know. I don't look these things up before I start recording. Do you expect me to do my research? No. It's not happening. I'll out myself. I'm Team Will here. I think Chris Rock was out of line. I don't think Chris Rock would have ever anticipated that kind of response, or that would happen on live television. But there's a certain sense of immunity that comes with posture and position, right? And that's not to say that Chris Rock didn't have to work really hard to get where he got, just the same as Will Smith did. But, thinking about that, just because you're in a situation where the butt of your joke can't, get on stage and physically retaliate against you for something that you said about their wife or their partner especially, I don't think that should give you free license to just say that thing. If Chris Rock was writing jokes around the understanding that anyone in the audience who was the butt of that joke could come up and smack him across the face, would he write a different routine? And is that then a result of fear, of cancel culture? Or is that oh shit, people have feelings, and you can set somebody off by saying something really insensitive, and maybe just because we can say something doesn't mean we should say something. And maybe the biggest night, Hollywood's biggest night to celebrate, the stars that are being awarded for their careers and their exceptional work, shouldn't then just become an excuse to talk about how they all have alopecia. I mean, again, this is a very specific context here. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Amy Schumer's follow-up gag with Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst, where he called Kirsten Dunst a seat filler? Kirsten Dunst! Amy! You are Amy Schumer. You are calling Kirsten Dunst a seat filler. I mean, that alone... I mean, if Amy Schumer wasn't already on just my list of worst comedians of all time, which she very much was, she just got moved a whole lot higher up that list. You don't talk about Kirsten Dunst that way. Don't put Jesse Plemons on the spot. Jesse Plemons is a sweet guy. You see how he reacted to that? Anyways, the real victim of the night was Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst especially, and the real perpetrator of the night was Amy Schumer. I didn't even see that whole Spider-Man gag live, but I saw it in the recap afterwards, and Jesus, fuck. Who hired her for this? This is a bad idea. Why didn't we cancel her like we canceled fucking Kevin Hart? Amy Schumer, hasn't she had this whole history of stealing jokes? And when that whole thing erupted, she just went out of the public eye for years, and now she's back with an Oscars hosting gig and a TV show. Oh, by the way, we were talking a little bit ago about how, Chris Rock and Will Smith, as far as I know, had to work really hard for what they both got at this point. And I assume the same applies to Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst, although to a lesser extent because, white, but, same fucking deal. Amy Schumer, on the other hand, has not. Let's not even talk about the stolen jokes, right? Because everybody's talked about that. I learned today that Amy Schumer is blood related to Chuck Schumer. Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer. That's right. This is a political video too. But, he's been attributed with helping to kill the Green New Deal and helping to derail progressive policies and candidates in the DNC. Generally not a well-liked guy. We don't have to get into that. But what this is to say is that Amy Schumer came onto the scene, stole all her jokes, and didn't even have to fight for it because she had people in her ring like Judd Apatow and her uncle, ? Again, I researched it well enough to know that this is at least factual. If it's not, somebody comment, and then I'll won't do anything because I just love spreading misinformation. But so she stole all the jokes, and then she's a nepotism baby too. So actually, I take it back. The real losers of the night were the American people. for having to sit through any of that. I mean, it was some great television for 3 seconds. And then the rest of it was, the Oscars. It was pretty normal. But anyways, right, I'll see you guys next year for the next Oscars, where they will do 1v1 cage matches, slap fights between different celebrities. Okay, bye!